Hello YouTube, my name is Isabella and today we're going to be giving you an updated list of the top 10 fantasy books on my TBR. The last time I did this video, the first time I did this video, was in 2018, around October, November. I was a lot greener then, I was a lot less experienced in fantasy, and I just gave 10 books that I physically owned, I think for the most part, that I could not wait to read. When planning some recent videos, I realized that I had done this video. I looked back and with ease, like I had completed them all without even trying. So that's always a plus. Took me about a year and a half, a little bit longer, but I'm glad I could do it without trying to remind myself. So I figured I'd give an updated list today of 10 fantasy books that I own on my TBR, and I will update you with my ratings for my old ones. Of the 10 books I had listed, 4 of them have become absolute favorites of all time. Ironically, looking at the list right now, I just noticed that I have a review for each one of these books, so if you're interested, I'll have them linked below. But these books are phenomenal. I love them so much. 2 of the books that I read were really great, ones that I definitely have enjoyed. 2 of the books I read were okay. They were enjoyable. Not great, but books I do like. I had the fun discovery of the #1 book being on that list. Not even being a fantasy story was okay, but I cannot get over the fact that it is not fantasy and I'm an idiot. And the last book I actually chose not to read. I just ultimately decided it was not worth getting into. A bit controversial, and frankly the reviews have not been great for the story itself, so I just decided to get rid of it. But now on to the books I cannot wait to read. This doesn't include some of these big fantasy stories that I've been so excited to read, like that are upcoming or series that I've just discovered. There are so many fantasy books that I cannot wait to read, but I just don't own them. So these books are ones that I physically own that I cannot wait to get to. And I want to, have some motivation for some of them, because some I'm very intimidated by. So let's just get into it. The first book on this list, I'm very scared to read, and that's why it's lower on here, because I'm just so scared to read it. And that's Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James. This is an adult, very adult fantasy story. It is the first in what I believe is to be a trilogy. And this book is like crazy grimdark, crazy heavy, and the reviews are so split on it. Some people think this is like a fantastically woven, masterfully done fantasy story. And other people say that this is boring and egregious, and there's like a ton of unnecessary violence and sexual violence. There's a ton of triggers in this book, by the way. Marlon James wrote another book that is so well beloved that's in literary fiction, and I bought into this. I bought into the hype, and I picked it up on a whim at the bookstore last year. Haven't touched it, and I'm so scared to do so. I'm just so intimidated by this book. Book number 9 on this list is Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is an urban fantasy story, so that's why it's a bit lower on the list to get to. But it is written by an indigenous woman, and it focuses on the mythology specifically of the Navajo tribe, and there is Own Voices representation in here. So that sounds phenomenal. And this basically focuses on a world that has ended, and our main character is a demon hunter, and that sounds really cool. Rebecca Roanhorse actually is an author I desperately want to read from. She's got couple books that have come out, a couple upcoming releases that sound super cool. I really want to get to her stories, and this I should fly through. It's it's not even 300 pages. I should get through this really quickly, and I'm very excited for it. One of the only young adult stories on here is Crown of Feathers by Nikki Palprado. When I originally got this in an owl crate, I was not excited about it. It just seemed, I don't know, generic. I just wasn't looking forward to this release, so I didn't care when I got it. But I have seen some really good reviews from reviewers I trust, from people who read a really healthy good, a really good mix of adult and young adult, and it focuses on these two sisters who I think are Phoenix riders, and then there's like a contested throne. I think one of the sisters is like really ruthless or possibly an antagonist in the story, which sounds super cool. Ever since I thought about reading it, just like one day, it's just been like calling at me, really grabbing my attention, and I think I'll be reading this sooner rather than later. Book number 7 on this list is a book that was on my most anticipated releases of last year. Bummed I didn't get to it, but that's The Women's War by Jenna Glass. This is an adult fantasy. It also starts off a trilogy. We all love trilogies in fantasy. It's a story that is about reproductive rights. It is about a patriarchal society where women are basically just meant for breeding, and then they gain the ability to control their reproductive health and systems, and that turns the world on its head. It is fantasy, which I love, plus a topic I'm incredibly passionate about. I really hope I like this. The reviews haven't been great, so I'm a bit nervous about that. The next book I'm incredibly intimidated to read, and I'm sad I haven't gotten to it, but I'm nervous, and that's The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. This is one of those fantasy tales that you can read the synopsis 5 times and still have no idea what's going on. It's one of the stories that gets pitched to you as don't go into it like knowing anything about it. I really like Erin Morgenstern's writing. I didn't love The Night Circus, but I vividly remember how much her writing was phenomenal. I think there are some queer characters in here, and this is a standalone, which sounds phenomenal to me, not having to read a ton of books in the series to get the full story. I'm scared of it, but I'm excited. I might read the audiobook, I'm not sure, but I definitely need to read it. Book number 5 on this list is kind of an OG, not an OG, whatever. It's a book that I've had on my shelves for a long time. That's The Black Prism by Brent. I picked this up at the bookstore, full price, on a whim in like 2017, and I still haven't read it. It's a long fantasy series, like with 5 or 6 books that has just been completed, and it focuses on like light, and like the magic source comes from light, but also the more magic you use, like you shorten your lifespan. I was so excited to read this, and then I saw some reviews a bit later on after purchasing it that it's maybe like not the greatest when it comes to women in the story. I still want to give this a shot. The magic system definitely seems worth trying. If I don't like it, I'll just get rid of it, and the sequel, which I found used, but I hope I enjoy this. The premise is really cool. I forgot to put this book on this list, and it's one that I'm so excited for, so I'm surprised by that, but that's Scavenge the Stars by Tara Sim. I hate this cover. I like the other cover better, but we'll just deal with it. This is a young adult story. It is a Count of Monte Cristo gender-bent tale, and I think it's the first book in a duology, and that just sounds so cool. This is supposed to be very queer. Everything about that ticks all of my boxes. Have I read The Count of Monte Cristo? No. Do I own it? Yeah. Will I be reading this first? Absolutely. But it sounds so cool. It's short. I'm so excited to read this. I think I might actually be reading this in June. Here's hoping for Pride Month, but it just sounds really good. I'm very excited for it. Book number 3 on this list, I have been won over. I was a bit skeptical. I didn't love another book by this author. Like, it was okay. And that's Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. Naomi Novik wrote Uprooted, which I liked. It was fine, but I just didn't love it as much as I wanted to. I've seen so many people uplift this book on Twitter and recommend it, and I was just like, screw it. Okay, and I got it from Book Outlet. It's a Rumpelstiltskin retelling, I believe. Ever since I bought it, it has really intrigued me. I also might go the audio route for this one because I really like the performance of her last audiobook. It sounds really cool, so I'm very excited for it. I'm excited for all of these. Okay, I did say that all of the books on this list I did own, and there's one notable exception on here, although, to be honest, in the next few weeks I might own it because I just want to buy it so bad. And that's Empire of Sand by Tasha Suri. The author is Indian, and I think the world is also inspired by like the history of India, and it's supposed to be a phenomenal story with a great romance. And I have just been sold on reading this book for so long, and I feel like such a fool for not having picked it up. I don't even own it yet. I don't actually remember the plot other than this is supposed to have a phenomenal angsty romance, but sometimes we want a phenomenal angsty romance, especially in fantasy when a lot of romances aren't well done in fantasy. So I'm excited for this. Book number 1 on this list is one that I have put off reading for a while. Some reasons are valid, some are petty. And that's Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. I can't wait to read this book. It's about assassin nuns. That sounds so good. Everyone that I have seen read this book has praised it, says it's phenomenal. A lot of people love it more than Nevernight, which I still haven't finished Nevernight. I'm reading it right now. And I've just put this off because I own it in mass market. I hate mass market paperback. It's small, it's not bendy, the text is tiny, and that's the last thing I want to read when I'm tired, and I'm just bitter that I can't get my hands on the hardcover because they are out of print. I also was just nervous that I wasn't going to like this story, but I've gotten over that. I think I will love this book, and I can't wait to experience what everyone else has been experiencing. I'm not sure if this is grimdark or not. I know Mark Lawrence has written in grimdark before, but nonetheless, I'm so excited to give this a shot, and I'll just have to suck it up and put on my big girl pants and read Red Sister in mass market. And hopefully one day I will come across it in the hardcover, because there's no like paperback, which is ridiculous. That is it. That is my updated list for fantasy books on my TBR, and I'm so excited. I love fantasy books. Who's surprised? I talk about it all the time, literally all the time. It's my favorite genre, and I can't wait to delve more into it. I can't wait to read more adult titles in this. Let me know down in the comments below what your most anticipated book for fantasy is on your TBR, because trust me, I'll never have enough recommendations. But thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye!